Hello everybody, this is the Baron here, and we are doing a SimCity Let's Play, or I should say we've already done one, and now we're doing a very quick version of the events that happened. So as we can see here, I essentially built a city surrounded by farms. In the middle there, you start with a city, and then inside that is the commercial area, and then outside of both of those is the industrial area. So that's all done with the intent of raising as much money as quickly as possible. You then eliminate everything. You quickly check, it should pop up here. You quickly check the pollution stats. You can see water pollution drops right down after it's all deleted. Garbage will stay the same. And air pollution. So you're essentially waiting for air pollution to go down. Then you start the framework of your city. SimCity is essentially a transportation sim. So you're really looking at building a very well-connected, well-thought-out road system in order to make the game do everything that you're interested in making it do. So I have this all on a time-lapse thing to make it go a lot quicker. It should be about a 20-minute video when it's all said and done, and it's just ultra fast. So I'll try and keep up with the video here and talk about all the different things. So I ran major highway systems through the heart of the city, and then you can see I'm using plazas to try and make the roads a little more desirable. At this point I was considering putting a monorail system in, which is why I have you'll notice that the highways kind of dip down underneath other highways. That's a monorail system can run above it. At the core of my city I have an airport, and then surrounded it by a commercial district. That's a major portion of the city. And then the corners I include in the industrial area. The reason I do that is it does make things a little bit easier to have the industrial area inside the city so that you can keep track of the high-tech industrial and its growth. It also is a bit of a funding boost. You can replace it later on. In mine, I don't replace it at all. I use it as a little bit of like a traffic indicator and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm connecting all of my roads outward to give as many opportunities as I can. I then fill in the rest. I kind of skipped over that part, but the rest is just residential. And then fire stations is my main expense at this point. Putting as many as I can, because a big delay in the game is waiting for that to happen, like waiting for it to deal with fires and that kind of thing. So here we're just double checking everything, making sure everything's what I want. I also do a little bit of police in the middle here, but you'll notice I put a lot of buildings down, and then hopefully I'll showcase it in a little while here. I then lower how much I spend on all of them to almost nothing, and I increase it as my city begins to pay for itself, which does take some time, especially early game. Getting the school network laid out. You'll see I got stalled there. I can only build one each, and then it re-registers the fact that I went from a city of 30,000 people to a city of 0. There's nobody living here right now. And I'm working off of the about $5 million I saved up before the game started, using that kind of method that I showcased before. So you can do this city from the ground up, and just kind of replacing major arteries and that kind of stuff as you go. It's a viable strategy. I enjoy this one just because it's faster and it allows you to build a perfect city from the ground up exactly how you want it. So I'm checking the demand. You'll notice the demand for it popped up really fast. If you're interested, you can always watch the original video. It should be in the bottom there, and you'll get a fuller experience for what's going on. The biggest issue with it is my voice is extremely quiet. I live streamed it, didn't realize that it was that quiet. And because it was an experiment for me, I accidentally didn't open up the stream to kind of interact with people. That was my bad. Instead, I kept open my live streaming software to kind of keep an eye on how it looked, to make sure that I kind of kept the jitteriness down to a minimum, which hard to say if I succeeded. So at this point you can see I'm lowering all the expenses down. I then went to another area. There you could kind of see just how much. I filled it all with farms. And this is just a short-term temporary boost on employment rate at the start. I deal with some traffic issues. And then in this one, I believe I illustrate the fact that you can do heavy industrial in the same one. Oh no, I just jump out. So I filled it all with farms, again, just for employment, just to give a small boost, so that once the city starts, I know it can start growing and start growing relatively quickly right off the get-go. So at this point I have a few different areas that I've started, different industrial and manufacturing zones. So this one I wanted to illustrate. It took up a little bit of time. So I showcased there that I was making about $1,900, so I fill in the gaps with light industrial. I have it paused at the moment as I do this. You can see, oh sorry, I do have it on play, it's just not very fast. So I start doing that, I put down actual power plants. And I do this and kind of allow it to fill up. So you can see here, still making 1965, the exact same amount as before, because as long as the major large buildings are standing, they'll still exist. But then you can fill up the rest with light industrial. And again, this is all about employment, it's all about jobs. Do some fire safety to try and minimize that risk. As you can see, they fill up nicely. You get the electricity warnings occasionally that you need to throw down. But as long as, you notice I keep checking demand, that's all about making sure that, well, the whole point is to try as best you can to get your demand to be nothing. So when you go back, your residential demand is as high as it can be, and all of those people move into your major city. Again, trying to get up to 1 million people as quickly as we can in our major region. So I pop back here, and you just sort of deal with all those little up and coming ones. A big thing with this particular strategy is I didn't have major roadways built everywhere, just in a few different places. So notice I spend quite a bit of my time filling in the gaps. You notice that I spend a lot of my time filling in the gaps as best I can and filling in all of the small roads. At this point, I think we just let it run for a little while. We have high residential demand, so you notice that demand is filling up quickly for that. As well as our commercial district is finally starting to boom as our population gets high enough. I'm unsure why this is showing up for so long, but that's okay, we'll leave it. So at some point, I noticed that, which was a ton of garbage, and I forgot to put anything to really deal with the garbage problem that we have in the city. So that's been stunting the growth for the first little bit of the game. I also use medium industrial to try and save money, or medium commercial in order to save money, as well as medium residential. So I'm kind of replacing those with high-end stuff, high residential, high commercial, because you can't build out anymore. Basically everything's full, so it's all about trying to get them to build up. So the high-tech industrial is starting at this point. Trying to see if my garbage problem is slowly going away, which it really wasn't at that point. Expanded the airport, which is a good sign, illustrating that the city's growing. I'm trying to get my solar plants back, which is why I'm just going to exit before the power problem becomes too much to deal with, and just kind of go out here, play with this for a little while before coming back in. So you can see there I built myself a way to sell power to this particular region. And you also notice that I'm using a lot of forest and then filling in the gaps. The reason for that is to keep pollution down as much as I can anyway. And we're waiting for that to go to 0. Once it does, you save and exit and you go back to your main city. And then we can do a deal to buy some of their dirty power that isn't polluting us. There we go. You see that it dropped, which was the whole point of that whole exercise. Now we're back to watching the city kind of grow. So a bad habit of mine. There we go. So we did a major deal to get rid of trash. We still have a power problem, and I decided to suck it up and do that. And then I immediately delete it once I get hydrogen power. Because although hydrogen's extremely expensive, the city is very profitable the way it's set up right now. And it can stay profitable. And then I'm using things like that. That actually was a perfect illustration of how those sorts of buildings can really help. So I put a lot of those types. I didn't focus many on the non-special unit types. So the special ones are ones that get unlocked. Like mayoral statues and that kind of stuff, right? That's the ones that I like to focus on. But you can also fill parks and stuff and see the same thing happen when you raise the desirability up at whatever location you're at. People just like to move in. I also didn't do a lot of plazas in the downtown core, which in hindsight I probably should have done more of. There's a few things actually in this playthrough I kind of later thought, well, perhaps I should do another one illustrating some of the other stuff. I really didn't focus on a whole lot of things the way I could have with this one, like other transportation methods. This one was mostly focused on roads and showing my favorite way to very quickly go through a game that I really like, and make the city as large as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. So again, a lot of this is just very quickly. You'll notice I keep dealing with fires. They slow the game right down. It's extremely irritating, which is why you want to have a ton of coverage for fire. So they can be dealt with quickly and you don't have to worry about it. So now we have our next giant region that we're going to deal with. This one I believe I keep basically the entire thing in. We do roads. The commercial district is going to be on the left. The industrial area is going to be on the right. So notice I do heavy transportation on the left hand side where they're going to be, and a little bit lighter on the right hand side. And again, to help with air pollution, I put thick forest in between them. Now if you try and do this, you'll probably notice that you run out of money fairly quickly. I use loans for the difference. Because without schools and all those other very expensive buildings that you have to deal with, it's much easier. So I don't want dirty industrial or high-tech industry to pop up here. I also don't want high-wealth commercial buildings or high-wealth commercial and retail, I think, are the two. I don't want either of those, so I raise taxes on all of those to try and minimize how many of those pop into this one, because I want all of those to be in my main city. High wealth is a good proxy for how dense they are, and I want really dense buildings, so that's how I played it. With residential buildings, it kind of works a little different because there's high density, low wealth buildings that have a ton of people in them. So that is one way to skirt it and try and get many of those people. I try and have a very large, well-educated city, because to me it looks prettier. So that's why I do it, or at least that's part of it. Again, we're trying to increase the density of the downtown core. And one of the biggest problems you run into is hospitals. You need to build tons of them, especially once buildings start getting as tall as they are now. That's what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to fill in the gaps to make sure I have more than enough hospitals and schools to make sure everyone's well educated. So at that point, or at this point, I'm starting to put in the subway system for commuting. Generally, it works better for moving citizens, or Sims, I should call them, within the city. But it does work for this too. I also like to use the warning about traffic. You notice I popped that open. I specifically look for them because they can be a really great proxy for finding out where the worst spots of the city are and then dealing with them. The high-tech industry was really high, as well as low-end commercial, so I figured I would start expanding that. This is a mix of commercial and high-tech industry. But because of all of the power plants that I did, I had to spend a bunch of money and time building a bunch of trees around it to try and minimize the amount of pollution. High-tech industry won't pop up anywhere that there's tons of trees. Or tons of pollution, and you can use trees to try and offset it. This one's a full commercial district, as per the name. As I mentioned in the actual Let's Play, I'm not very good at naming these sorts of things. Oh, we are going to do a little bit of manufacturing too, it looks like. Oh yes, this one was just an experiment I was trying where I did a mix of back and forth between the two. That's a strategy I use often, where the first loan goes into placing down all the necessary utility buildings that I know I'll need. Fill the whole thing up, and then with any money left over I just fill in with extra zones to try and get that stuff done. That fills up nicely until I make a mistake and have trouble powering everything and selling things. I believe I was buying something from the other city and ran out of money. But yeah, see, it kind of fills in okay. Not terrible, not great. Also using really expensive form of power because there's going to be a lot of high-tech industry in this one, and like I said, high-tech doesn't like pollution. And with that one I just checked demand, and once it was filled out we just took off back to our main city. So this one I was waiting for these to pop up. This is another way to do it where you wait for, oh, I did two at the same time. That must have been really bad. Wait for those to pop up to really help you figure out where you should put them down. And then I start increasing the density. Oh, I also started doing something I should have started at this beginning. Whenever a fire breaks out, I just built a fire station where that is. Then I started using the analytics tools within the SimCity to try and figure out where I should be putting extra, well, these sorts of buildings, education buildings. I might do the same thing for healthcare at some point here. Now the big thing with this sim is that, I still have different regions that still require low-wage workers. But the buildings that I'm trying to focus on are really high-wealth ones. So for this game, what ends up happening is that poorest people get concentrated in the bottom left-hand part of the city, which I never really dealt with during our time because we hit the 1 million before we got a chance to fix it. Again, lots of hospitals. Also, by eliminating those buildings, right, there's a big chunk of population that needs to move somewhere, so you notice a bunch of big buildings all happen around the same time because desirability went up, and those people need to live somewhere. You can do that too to check commute times, different things like that, to see how everything's fitting together, whether things are going well or not. And again there, ritzy hospitals, maybe my hospital budget's too high, got an award for hospital coverage. That's a function of how many of those that I'm putting down now. Yeah, I wiped out a chunk of my commercial district there. It's not too much later, but a good workaround for this is there is a way to just check zones. So it just pops up only the zones. Am I doing that now? Yes, I am. And you can use a slight color variation to figure out where you haven't placed high wealth industrial or high density residential, and kind of fill in any shortcomings or gaps that you're seeing, which is what I'm doing now. At this point we're about 85% done with the Let's Play. We are very close at this point. I don't have a running total. As you can see, the Let's Play program, in order to get a good view of the city, I had to sacrifice seeing that bottom bar that kind of shows everything. But the population, I think, is about 800,000 right now, and I'm just trying to bump it up that last little bit by filling in the gaps in the road and making sure everything is the highest density I can make it. Again, still dealing with fires. Now, because the regions outside of my major city are all built and all good to go, I am not attaching my roads into other roads on the other side because I might damage or destroy something important. So I've been hitting cancel on all of them. point I realized that demand has grown a lot with my major building projects I've been doing everywhere. So we're going to hop out and build up all around it. Just a little bit more. Still plenty of room in a few of my major developments, such as this one. So we're going to build it up and see if we can't get all the way down to where we need to go here. So we fill in the rest, and we just increase the time speed on this and wait for demand to balloon. So I noticed that the industrial one's growing a lot faster than the commercial side, so I start filling in the gaps with more high-tech industrial. Filling in nicely. So again, we're always checking demand and always building up. So that one I waited for the power warning, waited a few more seconds and decided we're good. Okay, so we're at 926,000. We're extremely close. We filled up basically the whole region. As you can see here, I'm realizing that I'm having some issues on the bottom left here. Now a big part of that, once we go to the world map, I'll kind of show you, but big problem with that is one whole section isn't getting easy access to jobs, so it's punishing that section of the city. Easy fix for that in the future though. So now we've got the entire city now. And that's the one. All built up. If I'm not mistaken, we are at 1 million right now. So I save and exit to kind of give a cursory overview of everything that's going on. So we got a big city, totally condensed, triple upgraded airport, named Central City because I'm not very clever. So 1 million people work there, 230,000 jobs provided within the city, a whole new region on the left-hand side that we could do two things. We could build another city, another large city, this a la the same as we did with Central City, or we could build more jobs there to try and increase the density of the major city. So we do have farming towns and all that kind of stuff. And that's it. That's all. Thanks for watching. This has been the Baron with that very quick SimCity, a condensed SimCity tutorial. If you want to see more of this kind of thing, or you like what I'm doing, just hit the like and subscribe, and please comment to let me know if I should do more of this kind of stuff in the future. Thanks, and until next time.